Today, let's dive into the management model that helps a giant company like Amazon stay unbelievably fast and innovative. It's a really powerful, kind of counterintuitive idea they call single-threaded leadership. And honestly, it might just change the way you think about getting big things done. First up, let me ask you a question that I bet feels pretty familiar to a lot of you. Why is it that as companies get bigger, they seem to get slower? I mean, you've got more people, you've got more resources. That should mean you're getting more done, right? But what usually happens is you just get more bureaucracy, way more meetings, and a ton of time just wasted coordinating work instead of, doing the work. So back in the early 2000s, Jeff Bezos saw this exact problem happening at Amazon, and he actually gave it a name: learned helplessness. It was this feeling where teams just felt powerless. They were so stuck in meetings, arguing over who gets resources, waiting for sign-off from 10 different departments, that they just lost their spark to innovate and build cool stuff for customers. The system itself was the problem. So what was Amazon's big idea to fix this? Well, it wasn't more process or some new collaboration tool. It was a pretty radical, counterintuitive solution they called single-threaded leadership. They basically decided that all that coordination wasn't just annoying. It was a defect that needed to be stamped out. So what exactly is it? At its heart, single-threaded leadership is beautifully simple. It just means that for any really important initiative, there is one leader who is 100% dedicated to only that initiative. It's their only job. It's the only thing they think about when they wake up in the morning. No distractions, no other projects pulling them in different directions, just pure, undivided focus. And this quote just nails the philosophy behind it. Dave Limp, an SVP at Amazon who actually led the team that created Alexa, he put it perfectly. The best way to fail at something is to make it someone's part-time job. I mean, it makes sense, right? When a huge project is just one of 5 things on a leader's to-do list, it's never going to get the focus it truly needs to win. So how does Amazon make sure they're actually doing this and not just talking about it? They use the simple 3-question test. First, is there a senior leader working on this full-time with 0 other distractions? Second, do they actually have the skills to make it happen? And finally, and this is the big one, do they control their own team and their own budget? If the answer to any of those is no, Amazon knows that project is probably doomed from the start. Now, here's where it gets interesting. There are actually 2 flavors of this. On the left, you've got single-threaded leadership, or STL. Think of this for big company-wide stuff like getting ready for GDPR, where a leader has to influence a bunch of teams they don't directly manage. But then on the right, you have the really powerful version, single-threaded ownership, or STO. This is basically a startup inside the company. Everybody, the engineers, the designers, the marketing folks, they all report to one single leader who's building something from scratch, like they did with Fulfillment by Amazon. Okay, so it's one thing to have a focused leader, but how do you make sure their team can actually move fast without, creating total chaos? This is where Amazon's genius balance of autonomy and alignment comes into play. A single-threaded team, or an STT, is built on these core ideas. They have to be separable, which means they can operate on their own, almost like a self-contained little unit. They're autonomous, so they're empowered to make decisions. They have crystal clear ownership over their area. And maybe most importantly, they're designed to have as few dependencies on other teams as humanly possible. The whole point is to just get rid of blockers. But of course, autonomy without alignment is just chaos. So Amazon is super rigorous about this. Before a team is even created, the leader has to write this detailed document that senior leadership has to approve, locking in the mission. Then they have detailed annual plans, and their progress is tracked relentlessly through weekly, monthly, and quarterly reviews. At Amazon, you earn your freedom through some pretty intense accountability. All right, so does all this stuff actually work? Well, the proof is in some of the most successful and game-changing products of the last 20 years. Let's just take a look at what this model has actually built. I mean, come on. 3 of Amazon's absolute biggest home runs, Amazon Web Services, Prime, and Alexa, were all born from this single-threaded leadership model. These weren't little side projects. These were massive, risky bets, and each one had a dedicated leader who was given the freedom and the resources to build something new from the ground up. Just look at AWS. Amazon's current CEO, Andy Jassy, was the single-threaded leader for AWS from day one. He was basically given this little internal idea and told, go turn this into a business. And his focused long-term leadership is exactly what allowed AWS to become the monster that it is today, completely changing the entire tech industry. Or how about Alexa? Dave Limp was given total ownership of that project, and because his team didn't have to waste time fighting internal battles, they went from a crazy idea to a world-changing product in just 2 years. I mean, that is the kind of speed this model can unlock. Now look, this model is not a silver bullet. It's not perfect. If you're not careful, creating these super autonomous teams can cause a whole new set of problems. But what makes Amazon's approach so smart is that they figured out how to manage these downsides ahead of time. Here's how they tackle the risks. So first, what about different teams accidentally building the same thing? Amazon's answer is pretty pragmatic. They're mostly okay with it. They see it as a price you pay for speed, and they only centralize things that are absolutely critical, like security. Second, how do you not lose deep expertise in something like engineering? They create these communities, like groups of top engineers from all over the company who get together to share what they're learning and set best practices. And finally, to stop teams from becoming little isolated silos, they use central groups of experts for things like promotions, which makes sure everyone's being held to the same high bar. So after hearing all this, you might be sitting there thinking, yeah, this is great for Amazon, but there's no way we could do this at my company. The good news is you don't have to try and change everything all at once. You can start small. So here's a practical way to get started. Don't try to boil the ocean. Just pick one, maybe 2 or 3 teams for a pilot program, and choose an easy project first, something that doesn't depend on a ton of other teams. Then, find a strong leader who can give it 100% of their time. And the key here is to truly empower them with a team and a budget, and get the executive team to agree on a clear plan for what success actually looks like. And just to bring it all home, here's a fantastic quote from Amazon CEO Andy Jassy. He just sums up the whole benefit perfectly. It's all about creating these autonomous teams that get super close to the customer, understand what they need, and then build this momentum, this tempo, to just keep iterating and innovating at an incredible speed. And so I'll leave you with this one last thought to chew on. Think about the single, most important, most critical project happening at your company right now, the one that could really change the game. And then ask yourself this: is the success of that project someone's part-time responsibility, or is it their only job? The answer to that question might tell you everything you need to know.